Thank you. Please be seated. Go ahead and have a seat. All right, Mr. Kasal, I just remind you that you remain under oath. And Ms. Steedson, I think we'll pick up maybe with some foundation questions with regard to Exhibit 369.
Yes, thank you.
All right, you may proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Kasal, in pages 1 through 14 of this document, you mentioned that this is the catalog.back files. Can you, are these the, is it your testimony today that these are the shows that were recorded and watched on the DVR system?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
This file represents content that was viewed, recorded, or watched even in part by the users on this device.
Are you able to determine the timing that these shows were recorded and or watched?
With this document alone, no.
How can you determine that?
Using correlation and aligning it with the TV guide schedule at the time.
And is this something that you typically do in your line of work?
Yes, using multiple data sources to gain an understanding of context and timeframes is important to understanding the scope of the whole thing. Yes.
Mr. Kasal, do you know what dates your extraction data covered?
Based on this document, it does not show the specific date range. I happen to know from the TV guide stuff what it may have covered, but this document does not show that.
When you extracted from this DVR, did you extract all the data from the DVR system?
Yes, it was a comprehensive collection of all the data represented on the hard drive, and these log files represent that.
Do you recall what date you collected this data?
Without referencing the forensic image I created of the hard drive, the forensic image of the hard drive I created, I would have a hard time recalling that.
What year would you have done this?
2022.
And so the data included on the DVR system would be from whenever the service plan would have started to when you extracted the data?
I do not know what the log file's start date is. I just know when I collected the data. I don't know when the family chose to decommission or stop using this particular set-top box.
We'll come back to this issue. Did the state do an extraction on the dish DVR system?
I don't believe so. I believe they only received what the forensic image of the hard drive contained and the data from me and reciprocal discovery.
One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Kasal, during your analysis of the Dish DVR system, did you look for History Channel TV guides?
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time as relevance in 403 that this is a waste of time because, for example, this document from the DVR says the Andy Griffith Show. If this witness is truly going to say that he can identify which specific iteration of the Andy Griffith Show was watched or recorded or whatever show it is, that there was no reruns at any point other than what could conveniently line up with their theory of the case, this is speculative and this isn't worth the court's time in the state's opinion.
Well, counsel, did you wish to respond?
Yes, Your Honor. This is providing contextual information about what was going on in the Mullis home and also provides corroborating evidence regarding the Google searches that were presented at Mr. Mullis's trial. The state at trial presented these searches without any corroborating forensic digital evidence, and we are now able to do so, which relates to the ineffective assistance of counsel claims in this instant PCR.
I mean, as it stands, I don't have any information about the dates that would correlate to this information, so I'm having a really hard time connecting it to anything that could be considered relevant, at least without that information. So, you know, again, if there's some further foundation that you can lay to tie that in some way, you certainly may do so.
One moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, I will just move on for the moment.
Go ahead.
You can take it. Mr. Kasal, based on your knowledge and experience, have you done examination in internet browser-based searches?
Yes.
What is the difference between a browser and a search engine?
A search engine is a program that is built by a content provider that will index and catalog web pages and the data contained on those web pages on the internet. A web browser is a program that is used to view the web pages on the internet specifically.
What would be an example of a search engine?
Google, Yahoo, Bing, web crawler, Excite are all web-based search engines.
What is the example of a browser?
A browser would be Google Chrome, Chromium, Mozilla Firefox, Apple's Safari, or formerly Microsoft's Internet Explorer.
Let's talk specifically about Google. If you were signed into a Google account on a certain browser, does Google track your searches?
It is an option that the user can elect for Google to maintain a comprehensive list of the searches that were conducted in that browser session, and is not necessarily device specific.
And is this typical?
It is.
Can you explain the difference between a device and an account?
A device is a physical piece of compute hardware, such as a tablet or phone or laptop. An account would be the user profile of the individual signing into that device. There can be multiple devices. There can be multiple accounts tied to devices, and synchronization options chosen therein.
What happens if a Google account is logged in on multiple devices?
There will be evidence artifacts of searches across multiple devices represented in the the data that Google catalogs. And in the subpoena reply from Google, it will reflect multiple searches conducted on those devices.
Could two people be searching on two different devices on the same Google account?
Yes.
Would this all be saved in the search history for the account?
Yes.
So Google search history is not device specific?
It can be device specific, but it also can be tied to the user account tied to the device as well. So,
And the objections overruled, the answer will remain in the record.
So if I understand you correctly, just because it is on a Google search history doesn't mean a certain device searched it?
I'm asking you to be a little bit more specific.
So if I had this phone signed into my Google account, and Tara's iPad was signed into my Google account, and I searched on my phone, could the search appear on Tara's iPad?
Yes, based on user synchronization options, absolutely.
Can you explain the difference between a search and web history?
A search is an end user typing a query of word or phrase into the search engine, asking for results. A web history artifact or evidence would be the visiting of a web page or the following of a link from those search results.
Did you review Mr. Hemstat's testimony regarding Todd Mullis' 76 Google account?
I did.
Do you recall him saying that there was no evidence of Todd Mullis' 76 Google account on Mrs. Mullis' cell phone?
I recall that.
Was that accurate?
No.
Were there indicators that Todd Mullis' 76 Google account was tied to or connected to multiple devices?
Yes.
And which devices were those?
The iPad, Ms. Mullis' phone.
Did you review the Google searches obtained from Todd Mullis' 76 Google account that were obtained by the state in the underlying trial?
I did.
Mr. Kasal, are you aware that Todd's children took a hunter safety course?
I am.
Objection, foundation.
Overruled, the answer will remain in the record.
I would like to show the witness what has been previously marked as Exhibit 306. And just for ease of reference, this has been made into a demonstrative exhibit M that has been provided to the state. This is M, sorry. Mr. Kasal, what is this?
It is a media document containing information regarding hunter safety.
Did you review this over the course of your investigation into the Google searches?
It was one of the documents used as correlation to understand the searches that were conducted across multiple devices.
And are you familiar with this handbook and how it relates to the Google searches found on Todd Mullis' 76 Google account?
I'm going to object that on relevance, foundation, and speculation, there's been no foundation that this document specifically was used or read by anyone or when, and where this line of questioning is going is the exact same as the DVR.
Would you like to respond, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. This document will show that the Google searches are exactly verbatim for what this hunter safety course purports in there and with the internet searches. And trial counsel could have found this document and should have known that Todd's children had taken the hunter safety course and would have had access to this information.
Okay, and maybe that's true, but again, as far as foundation for how this witness would know how anything about this would correlate with what he did is maybe unclear at this point. So if you'd like to lay some additional foundation, you can certainly do that.
Mr. Kasal, did you review Exhibit 306?
This document?
This document, yes.
I did. During the course of the investigation into the Google searches that were conducted across multiple devices, I noted a pattern that was curious in regards to, they all seem to be related to outdoor shooting activities and firearm safety. Upon further research, I discovered that the pattern lined up with maybe an open book test or some type of exam as it regards to the hunter safety course.
And did you review the trial testimony of Mr. Hemstat regarding this series of searches?
There seemed to be some question as to the specificity of the searches being of a violent nature, and to gain a better understanding of the pattern there, I wanted to see what came about. It revealed itself to be a series of searches regarding firearm safety and very specifically...
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is speculation and foundation once again. This witness has not established that any particular person in the Mullis family or anywhere else has actually reviewed this document, and it's speculative.
Well, I guess I'm not sure how the witness got this information or what his investigation revealed or where he got this particular guide from. The witness can continue his answer.
Your Honor, in the course of the investigation, when I noticed that the searches conducted on multiple devices, the laptop, the phone, and the tablet, reflected a pattern of firearm safety specifically and hunting, there was a timeline that emerged that demonstrated an evening of study in regards to firearm safety and hunter safety.
Your Honor, I would like to also note for the record that the state previously indicated that they would not be objecting to foundation or authentication or identification of this particular document.
And while that is true in our preliminary objections, the court did subsequently grant good cause to the state to be excused from the foundational requirements pre-trial. And however that may be, we don't object to the foundation in that we don't need someone to come in and authenticate this document comes from whatever magazine it's from. That doesn't mean this witness has not laid the foundation for how he is aware of this exhibit or how it pertains to this case.
May I ask the witness a few follow-up questions?
You certainly may. I think he had finished his previous answer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is this document the official study guide for the Iowa DNR safety, hunter safety course?
Objection, foundation, leading, speculation.
Sustained.
Your Honor, I would like to enter Exhibit 306 into evidence.
Mr. Bakke?
Again, we do not object to the foundation that this is, in fact, a magazine. I would object on relevance to this case as no relevance has been laid.
And again, on the relevance point, I still don't have any information necessarily about specific timeframes. Where this came from, I agree. I'm not seeing the relevance yet. It just hasn't been demonstrated by the evidence. If you'd like to continue to lay some foundation, you certainly can. It will not be admitted at this time.
Just one moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, the court may not have reviewed this yet, and I completely understand there's a lot of documents, but there is in the record for this PCR case, in the deposition of TPEM, it does indicate that hunter safety courses were taken and completed. It includes certificates that proves that TPEM and Tristan took these courses and were certified. Additionally, this is the hunter safety course. It is not a magazine. It is this the study guide for this hunter safety course that the DNR utilizes. And TPEM's deposition has been admitted into evidence.
And I understand that, and I have reviewed that, and I am aware of that, and I don't think that that's the basis of Mr. Baki's objection. I think his point is that that information hasn't been tied to this witness. Is that fair, Mr. Baki?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
We certainly do not dispute that some hunter safety something was completed at some point, but it's the connection between the two.
Your Honor, may I be heard briefly?
Sure.
Mr. Hemstat's testimony at trial has specific searches, a series of searches that indicate this, that are related to the hunter safety course, and they have a specific date tied to them as they are from the Google subpoena, and so they have the actual date of the search. The certificates that also are in evidence that of the hunter safety course shows just a little bit later. There's also additional Google searches that correspond with the field day searches, which includes the follow-up to the online tests that TPEM was taking on the day of the Google searches, and this is provided in her testimony. But Mr. Kasal had access to the Google searches. He had access to Mr. Hemstat's testimony regarding the Google searches and his own experience on using correlative data to understand the evidence, and what trial counsel should have done at trial, with Todd indicating that his children had taken these.
So I think Mr. Baki's point, Ms. Steenson, is essentially that all of the factual assertions that you just made in your argument just need to be asked in the form of a question to the witness so that we can get that into the record. If I'm understanding his objection correctly?
Yes, Your Honor,
Okay.
and I would additionally note, it just was pointed out to me that this document is also copyrighted in 2022, which, if I understand correctly, is after this trial.
So are you objecting to?
It just plays into the relevance objection, Your Honor.
Well, And so maybe this document being used as a demonstrative rather than an exhibit, and I guess I'm a little bit confused about how you're intending it to be used. You referred to it both as Exhibit 306 and also demonstrative M. So we'll maybe need to clarify that at some point too, but I guess maybe you want to address that as well, Ms. Steenson. So,
Just to clarify the record for the point that you had just asked, this is, the hunter safety course is what has been previously marked as Exhibit 306. The demonstrative has certain pages from the guide included with the Google searches just for ease of reference. So it is not, we're not jumping from exhibit to exhibit. So it is just for, just to make that exam hopefully a little bit more streamlined, Your Honor.
okay, I understand. Those are two different things.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Back then to the issue maybe of some additional foundation for this exhibit. Did you wish to follow up on that?
Yes, I would, Your Honor.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Mr. Kasal, did you review Mr. Hemstat's testimony regarding the Google searches on Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
Not only did I review his testimony and transcript, but I also had opportunity to review the subpoena reply from Google regarding the searches conducted across multiple devices.
Did you review, based on Mr. Hemstat's testimony, the searches that were testified to in August of 2018?
I did.
And did those searches stand out to you?
Yes. The subject matter contained within those searches was interesting and curious in the means that it was discussing firearm safety, and that some of the searches conducted also referenced the hunter safety guide, specifically the taking of an online test.
Have you personally taken a hunter safety course?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
In the state of Nebraska, I did complete and take the hunter safety guide, the courseware, took the test so I could become a hunter in my state. That's what gave me the understanding that some of these searches were relevant to that particular topic.
Your Honor, I'm going to lay an additional objection at this time that I'm unclear of what the scope of this expert is at this point. I believe he testified that he's a digital forensic expert, a network security consultant, and I believe he was only certified for those purposes, and now it appears that he's trying to be certified as a hunter safety expert and some sort of sociologist on what the inner workings of the Mullis family, what they're watching on TV, what they're Googling, and why, and it far exceeds the scope of this expert's background in digital forensics.
Your Honor, may I be heard briefly?
You may.
Mr. Kasal has demonstrated that in addition to being a digital forensic examiner with extracting data and analyzing the evidence, he also uses other evidence to examine such evidence for interpretation and investigation, and in showing how correlates and causes, how you can interpret the data. The data used at trial was solely these searches, and was very misleading without this other information surrounding these searches, and that is what Mr. Kasal does as his occupation, and he is very well qualified to provide information about what these searches mean with the corroborating evidence.
And briefly, the state likewise believes this testimony is very misleading in that this digital forensic expert is attempting to connect dots far beyond the scope of the foundation that has been laid and beyond the scope of his expertise.
Certainly the court does not consider Mr. Kasal to be an expert in hunter safety. Even if he was, that is not an issue that is relevant in any way to this trial. I think we are getting off track and making this issue way more complicated than it needs to be. Certainly the witness can testify about the commonly accepted practices within his area of expertise used to verify data that he extracts from devices or to interpret the data that he extracts from devices. That's where our focus needs to be, I think. And the court's not going to consider him an expert for anything beyond the areas that he is in fact an expert. So, Ms. Steenson, if you would like to ask another question, you may go ahead and do so.
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to show the witness what has been previously admitted as Exhibit 270, and I would like to show page 3. Do you see this exhibit?
It's waiting for the signal to come up on the screen. It's still not being displayed yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Did you switch devices or?
Erica, can you turn on the TV? It's been admitted. Well, just so we can see what the connectivity issue is potentially.
And Your Honor, we just discussed, since this is admitted, we're fine with this being to help us all see.
Okay, 270, sure.
I also have a paper copy I can just bring up to the witness if that's all right.
That's fine if you'd like, sure. I'm not sure why it's not popping up on the screen. Did you switch devices or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Kasal, can you flip to page 3 of this exhibit?
Okay.
Do you see a series of searches that are dated August 7th of 2018 UTC?
At the bottom of the page, yes.
And then this continues up to searches that begin on August 9th, 2018 UTC?
Yes.
And just for the clarity of the record, do the searches go sequentially from the bottom of the page to the top of the page?
Yes.
Is it still not working? The search dated August 9th of 2018 at 17:38 UTC. Can you tell me what that search is?
What fraction of firearm incidents occur in the home?
And based on your knowledge and understanding of UTC time, what would, and your knowledge of what time would this search actually have been conducted in Iowa time?
So it's in the time denoted in UTC is in military time or a 24-hour time period. So it's not denoted in a 12-hour time period. So it's 17:38:25 seconds. So if you subtract at this time, in August would have been daylight savings time, so 5-hour offset. So it would have been 12:38:25 seconds. Would have been the time UTC according to that entry in this document.
And what would that be in Iowa time?
I'm sorry, in 12-hour, I just gave it to you. The minus 5 hours is 12:38:25.
Okay, thank you.
That's the UTC time code stamp. The adjusted for 12-hour period would have been, it doesn't, sorry, 1,700 hours minus 5, 12 hours, 38 Central Standard Time, daylight savings time adjusted.
Is there a search just a few moments later?
Which one specifically are you asking for?
The one just right above.
Search for examples of elbow carry of a firearm.
And what is the next search that occurs?
The search for checking for an obstruction in your firearm.
And what time was that search done?
The 1743.
And now I believe that the exhibit is on the screen. Do these searches continue through August 9th, 2018 at 20:21:42 UTC?
They do. And as you can see from the not only just searched but visited web pages, there are references, multiple references to different states' hunter safety guides.
What indicated specifically in these searches to you that they were connected?
The time frame in which the sites were searched and the subject matter visited subsequently. So there would be a search for a topic surrounding firearms or hunter safety, and then there would be a web page visited pertaining specifically to hunter's education.
Can you look at the Google history, same page, August 9th, 2018 at 17:44:16 UTC. Can you tell me what that website that was visited is?
You said 17 what?
17:44:16 UTC.
Visited Quizlet.com, hunter safety quiz, flashcards.
And the visited site right above that, can you tell me what that is?
huntersed.com/Washington/study guide, loading and unloading steps of a firearm.
And a few searches up at 17:48:52, can you tell me what that Google history is?
I'm going to object that this exhibit speaks for itself. This was admitted, I believe, as Exhibit 105A at the underlying trial, according to the sticker on the front page. The court can certainly read every search and visited site if it so chooses. The jury would have had this to the Google searches to review for themselves. I just believe under 403 this is a waste of time in the state's opinion.
Your Honor may be heard briefly.
I'll allow the applicant to make whatever record they think is necessary. If you want to continue, Ms. Steenson, you may, so the objection's overruled.
And do these searches based on and this Google history based on your knowledge, experience, and education indicate that they're for a hunter safety course, people searching for answers to potential questions?
Objections beyond the expert's scope. The exhibit speaks for itself.
Overruled.
Yes. The searches and subsequent visits to websites would reflect, as far as pertains to digital forensics artifacts and evidence, the viewing and searching for subject matter pertaining to hunter's education and a test therein.
So just for the record, do you find this correlative nature of the searches, starting with the first search we mentioned on August 9th, 2018 at 1738 UTC, what fraction of firearm incidents occurred in the home, that it's related to the search of elbow carry of firearm?
I'm going to object to leading.
Overruled.
The searches as reflected in this document show a pattern of a given subject surrounding firearm safety, then a visit to a web page very specifically having to do with hunter's education and firearm safety.
Can you look at the search dated and timestamps August 9th, 2018, 17:51:53 UTC, and can you tell me what that one says?
It was a search for actions to take if one falls into cold water.
And can you tell me what the next search history is for that search?
They very specifically reference the search of what action to take when one falls into cold water. There was a visited website directly after that search on boat education, what to do in falling into cold water treatments as a result of that search.
So your expert opinion, is it your expert opinion that the searches from August 9th, 1738, 25 UTC through August 9th, 2018, 20, 21, 49 are all searches that relate to hunter safety course?
Objection. The foundation hasn't been laid for how these all connect in relevance.
Overruled.
Chronologically, in time, They show a pattern very plainly of a search for a topic, and the topic then visited of a web page that directly correlate to firearm safety, hunter's education, and survival of outdoors. The web history and searches reflect that pattern. The correlation of that data seems fairly straightforward with the evidence of these searches and web history visits.
I would like to talk about Mrs. Mullis' cell phone for a moment. Based on your review of digital forensic evidence, do you know that Mrs. Mullis created her Amy Mullis 5810 account on July 19th, 2018?
There appeared to be a new account created on Ms. Mullis's phone, as reflected by the web history, and as well as some unique dialer codes reflected in her call log.
And is it your understanding that she used this email address to solely communicate with Jerry Frasier?
Objection, foundation, relevance, speculation.
I would like to show the witness what has been previously admitted as exhibit, I believe 308, but let me just verify.
Okay. Did you wish to withdraw the question or respond to the objection first?
I would like to lay some foundation if that's
Okay, go ahead.
Can you pull up exhibit 308? And can you scroll to the last page? Does this exhibit show the communication between Amy Mullis and Jerry Frasier?
The document shows a number of email threads as communicated by the amylyn5810@gmail.com and an email account of Jerry Frasier70@gmail.com.
Jerry Frasier.
70@gmail.com. And again, as prosecution counsel mentioned, these items are
I
truncated.
don't believe this is responsive to a pending question.
Let's have a new question, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Based on your extraction and an analysis of Mrs. Mullis's phone and her email records, did Mrs. Mullis email anyone else using the Amy Lynn 5810 Google account?
Objection, there's not foundation laid that this is every email ever sent. This is an extraction of a device, I believe, not an extraction of the Gmail account itself, unless I misunderstood.
I guess I understood it maybe the same way. Do you want to clarify that, please, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Kasal, did you analyze Mrs. Mullis's cell phone?
I did.
Did you analyze her email address, Amy Lynn 5810 Google account?
As the artifacts or evidence was represented on her phone, yes.
Did you receive a subpoena response from the state's discovery on the underlying criminal trial of the Amy Mullis email account?
I did.
Based on your analysis of all the evidence and all the data related to the Amy Lynn 5810 Gmail account and the phone records of Amy Mullis, were you able to determine that Amy Mullis had only emailed Jerry Frasier through this email address?
I'm going to object on speculation, although I understand that that's all the data he saw. I think it's too far to say that conclusively is all the data that exists.
Your Honor, may I be heard briefly?
Objections overruled. The witness can answer if he is able.
Based on my recollection, yes, this Gmail account created by Ms. Mullis on her device was the primary modes of communication between herself and the account of Jerry Frasier70@gmail.com.
Do you recall a search regarding checking the content of text messages on the phone?
I do recall that search.
I would like to publish what has been already admitted Exhibit 270 on page 7, which is the Google searches.
You may. The witnesses just asked for some water. Maybe if someone, counsel for applicant, would like to grab that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Page 5. Are you able to see the exhibit?
I am now.
Okay, so for the record, this is Exhibit 270, page 5. Is there a search on July 21st, 2018 at 1:43:39 UTC?
Yes, I see that entry. That entry reflects a search for checking content of text messages on a phone.
And was this search conducted in UTC time?
That is what the document reflects.
And what would that be in Iowa time?
Sorry. The 1:43:39 isn't the one you wanted, so it'd be 8. 8 a.m. I would believe.
And this would have been on July 20th, 2018 at 8:43 p.m.
Sorry. No, I believe it would be 8 a.m. If all this is in 24-hour time period stamps, then that would reflect a 1 p.m. UTC time code stamp, or minus 5 hours, 8:43 a.m. time period stamp. If these are all reflected in 24-hour time clock designation.
So this is 1:43 a.m. UTC, so minus 6 hours would be 8:43 p.m., is that right?
Yes, I apologize for that mistake. That would be correct.
And this would have been done on the preceding day of July 20th, 2018, instead of
Yes.
July 21st, 2018?
And to correct my mistake, the 24-hour time period designation would have been in 1,300 hours for a 1 p.m. time frame, so I apologize for that mistake. Yes, that is correct.
Was there any information in the phone records you examined that corroborated this, correlated with this search?
I'm gonna jump on foundation on that. This appears to be speculative.
I'm sorry. What appears to be speculative specifically?
I guess I'll withdraw the objection and see where it goes.
Okay. Do you remember the question, sir?
She was asking me if this search correlated with an evidence artifact on the phone records for this device as well.
And you may answer that question.
Yes, it did correlate to an interesting record on the as an entry on the phone record. Specifically, as a very short phone number that was an incoming artifact.
Just one moment, Your Honor. Mr. Kasal, did you review other Google searches connected to other Google accounts, such as Mullis RN Google account?
In my review of all this data, I had opportunity to review the subpoena returns for multiple Gmail accounts, and it was all taken into consideration in building my conclusions and understanding of these events, yes.
And were there similar searches on this Mullis RN at Gmail account to the search presented in Exhibit 270?
Yes.
I'm going to object as vague and overly broad. This is 270 is 12 pages of, I don't want to characterize a number on it, but it's a lot of searches.
Can you ask a more specific question, please, counsel?
Yes. Based on the search we just mentioned about checking the content of text messages on the phone, were there similar searches on the Mullis RN Google account that you saw during your analysis and examination of the forensic digital evidence in this case?
As previously stated, there were multiple accounts tied to Ms. Mullis's phone. The Mullis RN account and the Amy Mullis 5810 account being tied to the device. There were parallel searches that were conducted with these accounts tied to the device. So yes, there was overlap of the searches as conducted on this device.
Your Honor,
Yes.
this is, as you can tell from the people sitting at this table, we're having a little bit of a technical problem pulling the exhibits that we need for this witness. And that is obviously the fault of the attorneys, but we're having a little bit of a technical problem doing that. And I don't want to waste the court's time, and I don't want to waste the witness's time. And I'm wondering if it would be possible for us to possibly take an earlier lunch so that we can get these exhibits pulled, so that we can move through this, so that we can move expeditiously, which I think is our goal, Your Honor.
Certainly, if you think that's the best way to use our time, we can do that. It is about 11:30 now. Are you thinking you'd want to break until 1, or should we come back a little earlier?
I think one would make sense, Your Honor.
Okay, let's take our lunch break. We'll plan on resuming at 1 p.m. Thank you. Sit down, Mr. Kasal.